Welcome to Club Damingo, brought to you by Cyclone Comics.
Uh, 551. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Gary.
How you going?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm okay. You're not pussy-whipped, are you?
Oh, no, not
Let's start with the fashion show. What are you wearing? Tell us a bit about your fashion today. Tim's wearing a lovely vintage T-shirt.
This is definitely vintage, and part of the reason why it's vintage is because I very rarely wear it because it's a bit confronting for me to wear. I think it's more confronting for me than anyone else.
Don't grab your tits when you do that. Don't grab your tits when you do that.
I don't want to be confronted with whatever it is that this would bring on. So what is this? I don't know how many people in listening land would have seen this before, but I'll have to do this without the chair in the way, I guess. Can you see it?
Yeah, I think you might need to get a little bit
visible?
closer to the camera. A bit closer to the camera. Yeah, I think people can get an idea now. Yeah.
All right. So this is a piece of Platinum Grit merchandise from way back in the day.
Yeah, cool.
And I bought every T-shirt that they made and wore them all to death, obviously. So they're all, it will surprise probably no one, least of you, Gary, that I've still got them. They're in a collection in the garage, all of these T-shirts that have been worn to the point where they've got holes in them, but I haven't thrown them away. So I bought and wore every T-shirt that Platinum Grit ever made, and I find it hard to wear this one to death. But I'm wearing it today for to draw attention to Doug and Trudy of Platinum Grit. Doug Bain, Trudy Cooper, because they are actually doing the Read to Me that's coming up in Sydney on Tuesday, the 2nd, I believe it is.
Right.
And I saw Gabe. Just let me check that. No, it's Tuesday the 3rd. Tuesday the 3rd. I saw Gabe, who was one of the organisers of Read to Me in Sydney, on the weekend, and I asked if that was a lock, and he said it was a lock. And I just had a look on social media, and they are mentioning Trudy's Instagram handle, Funk Moppet, I think it is. So I'm pretty sure I can, because I haven't heard anything else. They haven't done a lot of promotion this time, which is a bit crazy when it's Doug and or Trudy and or Trudy and or Doug and or Doug and Trudy.
And or isn't that getting a rave review?
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway,
sorry.
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm quite happy to spill those beans. So come along. I'm considering wearing this T-shirt, but the only person in the room who will remember it is Doug and Trudy. And they may not even remember it either. So I probably won't wear it. But if anybody is a huge fan and wants to give me $500 for it, vintage, hardly worn,
washed or unwashed.
It's been washed several times. Yes, every time it's been worn, it's been washed.
Hand washed, very carefully hand washed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
exactly.
So actually, that back in the day when merchandise used to sell.
Well, it used to sell for some people. I suppose we sold some T-shirts in the day as well. But yeah, the Platinum Grit was pretty a phenomenon. So no, I think you're right. Actually, the fans wanted stuff. I'm pretty sure Bug and Stump T-shirts and Hairbutt T-shirts, posters, etc., all sold. I've still got, I reckon, a stack this thick, and I'm not joking, of A1 size black and white posters that we just couldn't sell.
Wow.
Back in the day, I printed a bunch of them, and we just couldn't sell them. And we sold some T-shirts, but I never really designed good ones, so I'm not that surprised that they didn't sell.
It's all your fault.
It was just the cover. I should have done something more at some point. But Doug and Trudy did proper screen printed T-shirts and interesting designs. And
yeah. So speaking of merch, how'd you go on the weekend at
ComicGong in it was Wollongong, but now it's just south in Dapto, which is, I think they're calling it an outer suburb of Wollongong. I think that's how I heard it over the weekend. So ComicGong, which I reckon is one of the best names for a comic convention there is, ComicGong. It was really packed. It was huge. The fact that we moved from, and I've only tabled once, and I've visited maybe 2 or 3 other times, so I could be getting some of the details wrong. But ComicGong has normally been almost Angoulême like in that it would take over a little section of the town centre of Wollongong, town hall, library. I think they even did the street at one point. They actually
Right.
had stall holders in the street.
Cool.
I don't know if they've ever had a parade in the street.
Oh, that'd be
But
fantastic. Lean into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they've the town the city really embraced it, and it's always been pretty packed. It
Mm,
grew very quickly. From I went to the first ever one, which was in the library, and it was reasonably well attended, and it's grown into something which is really packed.
mm.
So they moved it to Dapto. I think when I mentioned it to you, you went, "Oh, the Dapto dogs," which is what I think of when I think of
Dapto
Dapto.
dogs.
The
Yeah. That's a good
dog
name
races.
for a supervillain group or something like that, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Don't
So
get
the
in the way of the
Ribbonwood,
Dapto dogs.
yeah, wolf.
Mm.
So it's the Ribbonwood, I think, Community Centre is what it's called in Dapto, and we were all worried. Everybody who's been for the last 5 years or so were worried that it would tank because of the move, but it was packed. There were
Ah.
points during the day in front of our table where people could not move. Of course, they were coming to me and my table, but just the general crowd was really, really packed. So people came, and it
Yep.
was great for Comic Gong. I would say huge success as always. The people I spoke to, most of them were very happy with the sales, etc.
Yep.
So,
Now,
and we did
tabling,
just as well here as we like in Dapto as we did the last time we tabled in Wollongong proper. So,
right.
yeah,
So tabling, you had Queenie Chan on your left and you had John Hannah on your right.
correct. And Queenie was sharing a table with Cynthia, who's like an artist alley regular as well.
Mhm.
Opposite me, I had the wonderful Louis Joyce and Ryan K. Lindsay and the people from Bolt Comics and Karen Beelhartz. And down the way a little bit was my son Samuel and his stuff. Marcelo was there, Hayden and Hayden Fryer, Kieran from Halftone. It was very well attended by comic book people, and this is one of the things. If you turn up at things like the big conventions and decide there's not enough comic book stuff there for you, then you need to go to these ones because that was a really good spread of good, interesting comic book people and comic book stuff.
Right.
So, yeah.
It was just a one-day affair.
Yeah, and a short day at that. It was 10 till 3, which I must have known, but I kind of forgot. And when we were on our way and I said to Anne-Marie, it's 10 till 3, she went, "Oh, that's a short one. That's not so bad. That'll be good. We'll be able to go and have a drink afterwards and all of that kind of stuff." So, yeah, it
And so
makes it
did you
really
socialise
easy.
afterwards?
Yeah, we went to the pub, the Dapto pub, after. Only a few people came, but that was nice as well. Um, you asked about merch. So I on my social media, I only did the one post really. I probably should have done more. And I spoke about it last week, but I brought the tote bags and t-shirts, and we sold one tote bag, and that was it. So it's like I think it's a bit of a hard sell the for us with merchandise.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
still find that most people who buy from me at a con are still buying the first 4 issues. So I'm still
It's
making
incredible.
new fans at all times. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was great the number of people who sought us out and said, "I bought the first 4 last time. I'm here to buy. What else have you got?" So that's just still the rhythm of my comic
Yeah.
convention
Yeah.
experience, which is great.
Yeah. Cool.
So
What about your postcards and trading cards and stuff? Do they move? Okay.
not much, not
Did you
much.
take your giveaway ledger annuals and stuff like that? Did you remember to take any with you? No, you
Remember to
forgot, didn't you?
no, remember to take them. Forgot to give them away. It was very cramped, and we really had stuff right next to us, in between us, and like stuff was
Oh,
under the table, and I totally
yeah.
forgot. It's funny. I get into a certain mindset when I'm at a con, and it's like I'm just on, and I just, the I don't know how to explain it, but the space in front of me is what is in the front of my mind, and the
Yep.
people coming by, and the
That's fair
conversations
enough.
we have.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
fair
it's
enough.
like, if
But
I've
that's part
got
of the reason why I
stuff
can't do those
that's
things
not there,
anymore, because it's so intense. It's
it is
intense
pretty intense.
focus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How did John Hanna's issue stands go? The display stands.
Really great. I got first and second generation stands to have a play with. I need to have a chat with him. I haven't chatted with him even on the day. We didn't really have the chance about the fact that I think I will get some from him. I'll buy some from him.
Right.
He had third generation on his table. I didn't really look at them, but they're basically just a tiny bit narrower because they don't need to be as wide if you've got something with a backing board, and just a bit lighter. Just the way that he's printing them, they're just a
Yep.
little bit lighter.
Yep.
So they're cool. I'm not going to say the suggestion I gave him because I don't want to give people the ability to steal his idea, because it's a pretty simple idea, and anyone with a 3D printer and knowledge on how to print, how to 3D model could probably make them.
Yeah.
But I think he's thinking of doing either a Kickstarter or just selling them outright or something. But I gave him an idea of something else he can do to improve them, which either somebody else on the day also said, or when that person heard it, they also said that's a great idea. So John's going, I'll see if I can implement that. So yeah, keep your eye out for that. I don't know what John's plans are, but I'm definitely gonna probably buy some from him. It meant that what I did, instead of just having what I've used to do, which is just have all the comics laid out across the front of the table, which works fine, I actually stacked them in sets over to one side, which gave me room to put t-shirts and bags and stuff as well, which is what I'm trying to figure out how to, because I had a full table as well. It's that thing, with the artist alley regulars, the people who go to sell their art and their trinkets and stuff, and they come with these cubes that you can buy and flat pack cubes, and then they have this huge kind of thing that's created with, and I'm going, I don't think I want to do that, but I think I do need to do something to display my stuff better. I look at Sean Keenan and Kieran from Halftone and John Hanna, of course, and I go, they've got heaps to sell and they present it really well. So one day I'll be smart enough to actually plan ahead of time and really look at what they do.
I doubt that. Yeah.
I doubt it too.
So 10 till 3, how did you go sales-wise in general for that a short festival? Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. It's I know people. Just to talk in general terms, I think people like, no, not people like me, just me. I don't do as well at these shows as I do at like the Oz Comic Con. So at Oz Comic Con, I do much better. I don't know, it's 2 days and etc. But just generally on an hour by hour basis, I sell better and more high, what do you call it? High value stuff at a show like Oz Comic Con than I do at the fairs and the zine, like the zine fairs and stuff like that.
Yeah, interesting.
But it's worthwhile to go, and we both, Amory and I both had a great time. We chatted to people, and it wasn't too onerous with the amount of time, and so the whole thing was great. We had a few drinks in the pub afterwards, and
have you thought about rigging up a laptop with your short for your movie and stuff going on rotation and all that kind of stuff to stop people in front of your table? You did that, did you?
I did that. Did I? Oh yeah, I didn't tell you.
No.
I put my iPad with a slideshow of the teaser trailer, the behind the scenes trailer, and the poster, the movie poster, on rotation, and that played for the entire day. And there was at one point where I realized it was mostly the children who were watching it because it was at their eye level. So as they kind of crabbed by because of how crowded it was, they were watching it as they walked by. But adults often didn't. When I pointed it out, and I say we're making a live movie from our comic book, people would take interest. But
yeah, right.
It was pretty incredible how few people took notice of it.
And it has to be bigger and louder.
Well, John had a little one, but higher, like at eye height, and I didn't really like make too much effort to see what people were doing there. But every time I tried to look at the crowd, they weren't looking at his either. I'm going, oh, I wonder, like, yeah,
Sensory
does it need to
overload.
be?
Mm.
Well, does it need to be a full screen thing and make it the actual focus rather than just one of many things?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and on top of that, there's not a lot of Trevor in it. You don't actually see Trevor because we're holding that
Oh, of
back until
course.
we've got
Yeah,
a proper trailer with
yeah,
graded color and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Interesting. The fine art of convention display techniques,
yeah,
and what works and
yeah,
what
yeah,
doesn't. And every show is different. Every show has its own personality.
yeah. And every iteration of the show, you can go to 5 Wollongongs, Comic Gongs in a row, and I'm sure that each one has got its own uh, idiosyncrasies, etc.
Okay. Yeah.
So talking about the short film, we saw our second cut, second edit, and the edit has to be locked down before basically anything else can be done because we don't have a big budget. You can't be doing VFX that you're going to throw out. You only want to do VFX on the shots that are actually in the final cut. Yeah, so we saw a cut Friday night. And
Exciting.
very pleased with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was really exciting. So it had the ADR, which I think we've talked about before
Yes.
on the show. The fact that we had to re-record Trevor's voice because the prosthetic was making the delivery too muffled. So we've got the ADR in, and we've got the pickups of Jeff Morrell, who plays a pivotal character. We had to do some pickups, so they've been edited in, and other subtle edits. And the difference between the first version that we saw about a month ago and the version we saw on Friday, subtle stuff, but man, it was so much better.
Wow.
So very
Interesting. Yeah.
excited. We're getting
Yeah.
there. So close to
Ooh.
locking down that edit, which means then we can move on to color grading, VFX, sound design, score.
Wow. How exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah. Step by step. Yeah.
exactly.
Anything else you wanted to talk about on the weekend, from the weekend?
Well, one other thing about merch. Samuel and I sold about the same dollar value. Samuel, my son, and I sold about the same dollar value of material. I sold almost no merch, and most of his money came from his merch. So
Oh,
it's not like merch doesn't sell. That's right. It's got to be the right merch. So his comics are very much slice of life, autobio. He does his story. He does these great little minis where he talks about each one is different. Where he talks about a classic album, music album, and in comic form. So he hand colors, or he used to. I'm not sure if he still does hand colors the cover.
mhm.
So he's got that kind of spread, which is different to my spread. But he's also got a mug and a t-shirt. I think that's the only mug and t-shirt he had because I didn't really have a good look at what he had. But it's a Kath and Kim thing. He's got
Oh, right. Okay.
Kath on the mug saying "Look at me" or something, and he's also got the same on the t-shirt, and they always sell. So that's where most of his money came from.
Look at
Look at
me.
me.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yes. You have to be of a certain
So yeah, just
generation.
interesting what sells and what doesn't.
Yeah. How have you noticed
Yeah.
Samuel's sales technique? Is he a bit more aggressive than you might be, or is that not a factor?
No, because he was across. It was across and down a bit, and we weren't really near each other. The last time we tabled at the same show, I think, was Otherworlds last year, Otherworlds Zine Fair, and he was a couple of tables down. So again, I'm not sure what his technique is like. You know what he's like. He's an awful person. He probably grabs people by the scruff of the neck and
Yeah,
pulls the money out of their pocket.
that's right. Yeah. He's probably drinking coffee out of the mugs that he's selling. Here, buy this one.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
buy that one. Exactly.
Ah,
Yeah. So yeah, that was Comic Gong. It's
mm,
worth coming to if you're in Canberra, the Gong, Sydney, a little bit further south.
right.
Um, yeah, and that's the thing. It's got a bit of a catchment like that. People come from Canberra not only to table but also to view. Um, the other thing about Comic Gong, can carry on for another couple of minutes,
Oh, sure.
is
I've got
that
nothing, so it's all on your side of the equation. So yeah, I'm just
is
listening.
is Matt Hatton came and visited.
Ah, yeah.
So a lot of people won't know who Matt Hatton is, so I probably won't go on about him too much. But Matt Hatton is from way back in the issue one days. And it's interesting because somebody that I chatted to earlier in the day actually dropped Matt's name, which doesn't happen very often, because they were talking about issue one being Zero Assassin and Cyber Swine, like a few other things, but an anthology called Issue One that had those two major parts, and then all sorts of other things. Platinum Grit had a short story in there. Greener Pastures had a short story in there. So it was pivotal. It was really a pivotal comic at the time, mostly spearheaded by Sam Young, which is a little bit. I don't want to devalue other people's input there. People like Stuart Hale, Ant Larkham, and many others. Lots of people made that a success, but it was really Sam Young's brainchild at the beginning. But Matt Hatton came on a few issues into that, as a lot of people did, go, "This is cool. Can I draw something for you?" So Matt is a concept artist, production designer, sometimes storyboard artist for major Hollywood films as well as local Australian films. Furiosa and Fury Road and the Aliens films. At the moment on his Instagram, he's showing a few things from the work he did on Sweet Tooth, which I didn't know he'd done anything on the Sweet Tooth TV show.
Yep.
So yeah, amazing artist, like amazing, beautiful, fully rendered, fully painted, drawn by hand sometimes, drawn digitally sometimes. So he was instrumental in taking Cyber Swine, which was very Disney, because Cyber Swine was created by Sam Young and John Horvath, and John was a Disney in-betweener who loved that Disney style, the television animation style, the goofy and that kind of cartooning style of Disney. So it really started in that form and was pretty edgy for that kind of cartoony stuff, but was still looked like a kid's comic and didn't push too hard, from memory anyway. But then Matt Hatton came in and they did this.
I remember the cover.
Well, I forget what the story was called. It had a bit of a name, but all of a sudden it was very much about animals and death and destruction. And because Cyber Swine, for those who don't know, half cop, half pig, half cop, full boar.
That's
I think
the
was the catch cry.
Yeah.
So he's a cyborg cop, and very, very cool, very fun idea. And there was a Sega made a choose your own adventure type game out of it. We thought for a little while there that it was actually going to take over. It's absolutely got legs even now. Such a great concept. Matt Hatton's addition to that was this hyper realistic, very stylized, but very much more violent story. I think Sam still wrote it. So the violence was probably coming from Sam saying, well, I can see what you can draw. Let's do something else. Exactly. I haven't pulled out my issues to double check any of this. But
it lent into the Blade Runner futuristic violence, Judge Dredd kind of.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. I remember. Yeah. It. Yes. Yeah. Good old Matt Hatton. So
it was great to catch up with Matt. Haven't seen him for years.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sam Young and issue one and the pivotal thing that was, and the dreams that we all had for it and the industry in Australia in general because of it and him. And I like to put all my cards on the table. I actually really liked Sam. I really respected Sam and had a lot of respect for the work that he did and how much time and energy he put into things and the planning that he had. As well as his creative output, I had a lot of respect for that. I think Zero Assassin and Cyber Swine, if he resurrected them now, they could still be turned into television shows or movies or something. They could still be proper comic books that would gather a really great fandom around them. But issue one as a company imploded at some point. And it's been discussed ever since, like whatever happened to issue one comics. And at the time, Sam Young kind of also disappeared. great story of somebody who a story related to me of going to a funeral of a person who passed away, but we're in the circles of both this friend of mine and Sam Young, and Sam. So they didn't know that they were going to be there, the two of them. But my friend was eating something off the buffet table or whatever you call it, and turned and said, "Oh, Sam Young. Oh, fancy seeing you here. Oh, yeah, because you're friends with this person who's unfortunately passed away. Good to see you, Sam." Turned away to get another couple of hors d'oeuvres onto the plate and turned back, and Sam Young had gone, just disappeared. Like, so that's kind of like the a great example of what happened to Sam Young. He really kind of distanced himself from everything.
Yeah.
So pause on that. Clint Curé, who you might know as Q Ray, Q-R-A-Y, while Clint Curé is spelled C-U-R-E with a accent on it. Clint Curé was making mini comics back in the day, really, really cool underground feel, kind of almost Vaughan Bodie sort of feel, underground comics back in the day. And he's a filmmaker. He likes documentaries, and he started making a documentary about issue 1, and just all of the important stuff that I've talked about. And he said once we've talked about this, Clint and I. He said there was a point at which the conversations, the interviews he was having with people all turned into whatever happened to Sam Young. And he decided that was actually the hook for the doco, not the issue 1 comics. And that should be the title, probably the title. He's been working on this doco for years. He's interviewed, I reckon, at least 24 people, myself included.
He's interviewed Bo.
About our time in...
Yeah, he's visited Bo's
I couldn't even tell you who he's interviewed. Me, Bo, Bodine America, Don Ticchio. There was a trailer or a teaser or a pitch teaser or something out and about at one point. So you possibly could track it down on the internet somewhere, which will show a few people's snippets of the interviews. So yeah, that's why Matt Hatton's name was brought up earlier at ComicGong, because somebody was talking about issue 1, and I started to talk about the Clint Curé documentary. So if anyone's got any kind of behind the scenes stuff that they reckon would be great to talk to Clint about, either look for Clint or drop me a line and I'll connect you with Clint, because he's still working on that little by little. I think he was hoping for a grant at some point.
Yeah, which must be close to being finished, though. It must be close with all the people that he's talked to.
Yeah, I think something with documentaries, they often evolve. You know, a fiction piece, normally you write the story and then, you know, that's the evolution aspect, and mostly from that point on you just make it. But documentaries, once you start uncovering things and talking to people, they often evolve. So not sure where it's at right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, a lot of dedication doing that kind of stuff, like making short films. But you know, the documentary side of things, it's got to be a dog with a bone with your subject matter, and as you say, be flexible enough to realise when a tweak or a pivot to the subject matter is called for. You know,
exactly.
I could start out being a cooking documentary, could end up being a murder mystery.
That's right. Oh, exactly. Yeah. Who are you pointing to?
No, that was my pivot.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. That was pivoting, right? You're not telling me that I need to go and put those mushrooms back in the ground. Because
they'll never find the body
near us at a convention. We're probably you're probably gonna be offered homemade cookies at some point. Amory loves to bring some cookies along to help the day pass for everybody who's around us. So we had homemade chocolate chip cookies and homemade cinnamon biscuits, and boy, are they fantastic!
Great,
helps the day go by.
Indeed, yes, those cookies, Bongo cookies,
but no mushrooms.
So that was the weekend. So you were able to drive back home by Saturday night and still have half a weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Yeah. The 2-day shows, I haven't been to one in ages, but they're so exhausting. By the end of day 2, by lunchtime, day two, because day two in those bigger shows are generally much quieter than day one. So not only are you battling having no energy, you're also battling having less people around.
Yeah. I probably don't stay out as late as I used to, but especially if you end up having drinks on the Saturday night. And if you're going to have drinks, you can't really do it on Sunday night because a lot of people pack up and fly home immediately on the Sunday evening, and a lot of them aren't really around on the Friday evening. So, you turn up on Sunday and had to late at night, and so, but shows. Got to do them.
What's the next one for you? What's the next show?
I think it's Oz ComicGong Canberra. Pretty sure that's the next one.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So Oz ComicGong Canberra is our next one, and that's August. So ages away.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I've just been going through this morning and over the last couple of days my vaults of artwork, still continuing the whole what am I selling and what am I getting rid of thing. I keep on uncovering little, not jewels necessarily, but I still got that. And why do I still have that? And that can go, and that can go, and this can go. So it's been a very interesting morning just having a chat to people, getting in touch saying, do you have any of this? Do you have any of that? So it's forcing me to dig deeper into these cardboard boxes and plastic cases of artwork, which, I'm struggling to find why I should hang on to them, really, half-finished pages and pages that have been cut up. And there was a time where I thought, well, if I can't sell full pages, of course they're like dud, not very interesting pages, then maybe I could sell them to non-comics people as framed individual panels of just something to be in the smoke room or in the drinker's bar or in the toilet or something like that. So I carved up a couple of pages and had them framed, or not framed, but just mounted, so that people could and that worked to a certain extent, but things dried up pretty quickly.
What pages were you cutting up? Like Jackaroo pages, or
this was
Olympians?
Apes pages.
You're cutting up Apes pages.
Yeah, if you want to hang on a sec, I'll go grab a sample of what we're talking about.
Please do. Oh my God, incredible! So Gary is selling a whole bunch of art, which he does every so often, but I don't know if he's done it for a little while. So if you're interested in getting some Gary Chaloner artwork, you really should hit him up. I get it. Absolutely. Yeah. I love out of context panels, that just, that work as a piece like that. That's amazing. What's that from? That's from Olympians?
Olympians, yeah. And some of them work really well.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely from Urchak's Folly.
Yeah. And it's sort of like
I love it. Yeah.
So that was an idea that I was trying to push. What were they? I had a name for them that was kind of clever. Panel.
Too clever for you to remember.
Yeah, but anyway, just out of context stuff.
Yeah. Very cool. What a great idea.
But in doing that, of course, you have to do the horrible thing of cutting up pages of art.
Wow.
So
amazing. A lot of those look like they're Dylan Naylor's inking, yeah.
That one there was me doing the faux Dylan inking, that one.
Right.
So I might still go ahead and finish framing some of these up, or like getting a mount for them and seeing whether individual panels could be sold. But lots of. This one is a Dylan panel.
Oh, excellent! Use that as a bookmark.
Yeah. But anyway, so doing that kind of stuff. There's more here. There's a big one. That's 2 panels.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
But I don't know whether it's actual heresy sort of cutting up these things up, but it is what it is.
Yeah, hard to know. I would lean towards heresy.
Well, it's my artwork and I'll do what I want.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
You're not my real mum. So I'll leave those out now that I dug them out, and I'll go through them a bit later
Good
on.
idea.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Again, I reckon when there's cartoonists in town for the Stanley's conference at the end of the year, bring them out,
Try
hand
and
them
give stuff
around.
away.
No, put a price tag on them, and people will love them. Absolutely. So, how do people contact you about buying some pages?
I've just been doing it this morning through Facebook. So hit my Facebook page and drop me an instant message or a message, and I'll get back to anyone who gets back in touch. Pricing these things is just stupid because that's always the hard thing, that there's not a lot of money around now anyway. So you don't want to highball people, but you don't want to lowball yourself either. So it's just a balancing act, and the art of of haggling is a lost one, But that's just part of the process, I suppose. Like my phone is still going off now, which is I'm trying to ignore while I'm talking to you.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, that's good news. I'm glad there are people interested. Absolutely. If you want to see some of the most beautiful art on a comic book page that you'll ever see, you should buy a page of Gary Chaloner's stuff. It's just gorgeous.
I know that there's a great big box of Jackaroo artwork, which I know some of the stories, like you've got a page of the Jackaroo's Dugga Dugga Grudge story. So that story is formally already broken up. So I don't know whether I should just grab that story and offload those individual pages, or whether I should do something else with the Jackaroo collection, or whether it's not worth worrying about and just put them all on the market and sell them to the right homes and, get the money for it on the short term, as opposed to hanging on to it for why down the track. As long as they're all got some decent digital scans of the artwork, that's the practical use of it.
Yeah. And you've got off-site backups of your scans, right?
Yes, a couple of external drive, multiple backups, and stuff like that. So I don't think it'll ever get lost. And if it does, you have to be philosophical about these things.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely. But gosh, that would be a shame.
Yeah, this just seems to be the subject in my head of the artwork sitting in a box for years and years and years and not being able to do anything with it. And it's all well and good wanting to hang on to it for down the track reasons. I don't know, for legacy reasons. But on the short term, it seems so much more practical that if you need to sell them and get some cash in, it's a resource that you have that if you need to, it's better to be like a person that's getting by having sold your artwork than it is being a really poor person living out of a car with a box of original art that you don't want to sell.
That's right. No, I totally get it. I don't know what I'm going to do with mine. Mine are all sitting in that cupboard behind me.
You'll never get rid of it. You'll never get rid of it. That stuff's going to a museum or a gallery. That's the National Library of Australia. It's okay if the National Library had a budget for buying collections of stuff.
Exactly.
But I don't think it does necessarily of original art. I think it does have a certain budget for comic collections from collectors, but the original art market is a whole different kettle of fish, I think.
Yeah.
I could be pretty wrong there.
And there's I won't spill all the beans. We were chatting about it just before we came on air. I won't spill all the beans, but there's looking to be a pretty extensive and interesting Australian comic art exhibition coming up in around 18 months or so. So keep an eye out for that. That'll happen. I'm pretty excited about that happening. It'll be a proper art exhibition, which not to say that means it's more important than having like a smaller exhibition in a pub or something. But interesting to have somebody with a big budget trying to do something. Well, not a big budget, but a budget trying to do something in a gallery. So I'll when I'm allowed to talk about that, we'll talk about that more.
Yes, very interesting. I hope it continues and through to its logical conclusion, because we need more of those. That kind of representation, I think, is important. Yes. An American comics thing. I watched a YouTube thing yesterday that was basically saying, why is John Romita Jr. get such a bad rap these days? And I was going, does John Romita Jr. get a bad rap? And apparently he does. Apparently his style has morphed to the point where he has a great number of detractors from his more recent stuff. And the guy who is narrating this, who's on the side of John Romita Jr., likes his stuff a lot, and he's scratching his head as to why there's a lot of negativity floating around. And then he said something like, John Romita Jr., he's probably in his 60s, if not early 70s. Just let him do what he wants, kind of thing. And that was a reality check of John Romita Jr. is in his 60s. I always remember him as, you know, in his 30s, early 40s. But it was just an observation of, who would diss John Romita Jr. anyway, because he's such a solid, fantastic artist and storyteller. B, even the young guns are getting old now.
Yeah, that's right. I remember those images of him, like in the bullpen bulletins, you know, as a hunk, a young hunk with you know, beautiful hair and all of that. I loved his stuff. I loved his stuff in I mean, showing my age, in Iron Man, him and Bob Layton. Like, it's just so beautiful. Exactly what that comic needed. And also the same with Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man with was it mostly inked by Milgram at that stage, I think, or Mooney?
I'm not sure. This guy was saying there was another inker. No, can't remember the inker's name, but he was the guy that was associated with him on Spider-Man. Of course, Al Williamson was associated with him on Daredevil.
That's right.
There was this other.
So good.
Yeah. So he's had some pretty good runs, and now he's back doing Amazing Spider-Man or something, and he's getting all these people going, yuck, can't stand the artwork.
Yeah, I can understand that it's probably a generational thing, perhaps, to a certain extent. I can't see that JR Jr. should change his style to make anyone else happy either. He's probably one of the last artists who have the work ethic of 2 to 3 pages a day or whatever of pencils, and if you've got the right inker, that they know how to
interpret.
You know, that's Dan Green. Dan Green might have been.
Dan Green was another good one. Scott Hanna, is that an inker's name?
Yeah,
I think that's the guy.
That was a bit after my time.
Yeah, that was the Spider-Man inker.
Yep.
Yeah. So interesting. You know, that was just an observation from last night while I was watching this thing going, what is John Romita Jr. up to these days? And I think the junior sort of makes you always think of a younger guy, and even juniors grow old.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
He's one of the last of the great stylists, I think, you know, that didn't sort of buckle to a certain extent to the image style. And there's a lot of people out there that did their variations of image or the cinematic realism. But Romita Jr. stuck to his guns and his style. And, you know, if you put me on a book, this is what you're going to get.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we want.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always remember when Howard Chaykin came out here, he said a similar thing where, you know, he gets offered these jobs, he gets starting on the project, and the publishers go, can you be more like this? Can you be more like that? And he was basically saying, you hired Howard Chaykin. You're getting Howard Chaykin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I told you the exchange I had with Howard over email when I invited him to take part in Greener Pastures #8.
I think you have, but say it again.
Yeah. If I can remember it properly. So I met Howard as well. You know, people think because of my connection with Supernova that I'm great friends with all of the comic book artists who came out. And the honest truth is I rarely had time to hang out with them, unfortunately. But I spent a little bit of time with Howard Chaykin, and I think he's pretty amazing personality as well as amazing creator. If you have time to look into his history, find it in an interview somewhere where he talks about how one day he just decided to change and to be the Howard Chaykin that we know now, rather than the wimpy Howie Chaykin, and you know, and he changed his voice and the way he stood and all of this stuff. And he said it's this big mental change, and all of a sudden he knew how to actually be a successful person, let alone comic book artist, etc. So he's interesting in that regard. But these people who I have some connection to, international comic book artists, I invited to take part in Greener Pastures #8, which, for those that don't know, was a jam issue, 30 different pencilers, or 29 different pencilers, and I inked everybody. So someone like Jim Lee, who I I emailed, cold called, emailed with a photo of me and Michael, the co-creator of Greener Pastures, and Jim Lee standing next to each other with our OzCon awards from back in 1990, whatever, standing together from the one time that he came out to OzCon. Jim Lee replied to me within 5 minutes. It was incredible, and said, "This is really cool. What a great memory." I do remember being at in Australia at OzCon. Unfortunately, I can't take part in your project because I work at DC and I'm not allowed to do other outside projects, et cetera, et cetera. Which is a fine reason versus stroke excuse, whatever / excuse. But the fact that backwards and forwards a couple of times talking to him was incredible. What a lovely man. Howard Chaykin I wrote to, and he came back to me pretty quickly from memory as well. But I said, this is the project, and part of the project was I have to give you a page, and you have to know what has to happen on that page so that the page prior and the page coming after all flow into and out of your page. So here are the layouts. You don't have to do my layouts, but as long as you start and finish. Yourself, Gary, and John Someriver, great examples of people who did not follow my layouts, but made sure that the story got where it needed to, and just like blew my layouts out of the water. My layouts were very much I wasn't really even trying to be too creative. I think I was just really trying to
tell the story,
get the idea.
Yeah.
John Someriver, I think it was after an OzCon or something, OzCon here in Sydney. We were having drinks, and he said, "I haven't started your page yet, but I'm about to." He said, "I hope you don't mind, but I'm throwing your layout out the window. I'm doing full Someriver on this." I'm like, "Yes, please." And if you've got a copy of number 8, that's a great page because he went full Someriver. Such a better layout than mine. So where is this heading? I asked Howard Chaykin to be involved, and I said, "This is how it works, and here's the layout." And I did say you don't have to follow the layout, but he must have sped read the thing, and he said, and I'm putting in, I think, the number of expletives that he actually had in the email. I don't think I'm overdoing it. He said, "Why the fuck would you be hiring fucking Howard Chaykin when my greatest strength is storytelling? I'm okay." I don't know if he said this exactly, but the implication was, I'm an okay penciler and I'm a really good writer, but my best strength is I know how to lay out a fucking page, and you're telling me that you're going to lay out the page for me to follow? Well, forget it. I'm out. Okay, but Howard, it's okay.
Yeah, but you said just the opposite. You said, this is just a guide. Yeah. Don't use my layout. Yeah. But yeah.
And I wrote Howard. I think part of the way Howard likes to deal with people, this is just my interpretation. And Howard, if you're listening, as if he's ever going to be listening, but don't take this to heart either. But I think Howard, would like to test the relationship so that he knows where we actually are as a relationship. And I think that's what that was. It was like, yeah, really? And it gives me a shove. And is Tim going to come back in again?
Yeah.
Or and I came back and I said, no, Howard, you've misinterpreted this. It's all cool. You're right. I would never tell you how to blah, 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 blah. And he said, oh, okay. So the whole temperature came down. He said, look, he actually was really interested for probably 2 emails and was trying to figure out, well, it was more fitted into his schedule. I was saying, the whole idea is that I ink it, so it's not even like you have to do pencils and inks. You can do pretty rough pencils, and then I'll bring it up to standard with the rest of the pages in the book, and all the lettering is mine, etc. In the end, he passed on it, and quite nicely as well. Like it was one of those things in the in the putting together of that project, which was a really interesting exchange. I asked Alan Davis. These are like my heroes. I asked Alan Davis, and his wife said, "Oh, he's not well enough at the moment to do stuff because Alan's also getting old, and he's just finishing off a project that needs a rest." Barry Windsor Smith's PA got back to me and also said, "Can't really do it right now." But thank you for asking. So most people got back to me, and most of the ones that got back to me were really nice about how they were saying no, which was very nice of them.
Cool.
So yeah.
Would you ever do that style of project again and approach it the same way, or?
I would love to, but it absolutely took 5 times as long than if I just penciled and inked it myself. It just it's a pretty full on thing to try to coordinate. So
it's worthwhile doing for its own sake, not if you're trying to run a business and get a comic out on time.
Yeah, no, totally. I loved it. I love the outcome, and I learned so much doing the pages. A few people like Ashley Wood, I was really worried that in the end I would have to find a replacement because it can be hard to get in touch with Ashley. He's a really busy person, and I think his attention is fractured quite a lot. And he was very keen to take place, very keen. And then there was lots of dead air for a while. But eventually I got a page from him, and I think it was possibly the last page, and it blew my mind. It was so cool. It's pretty similar to my layout, but it was like, now I see how, if I was going to even utilize my own layout, what I should do with it. It was just beautiful. And he said to me, he wrote in the email with the attached digital work. So remember, everybody, almost everybody gave me digital work. I don't own all of those wonderful pencils, unfortunately. But in the email, he said, you know me, Tim, I don't pencil. I go straight in with ink. So I don't know what you're going to do with this. So he presented a fully finished Ashley Wood page. He said, so you can print it as is, or you can re-ink it, or whatever, you know. So I re-inked it because it would have stood out if it wasn't re-inked. So I blue lined it, printed out a blue line, and re-inked it, and tried to bring McEwen sensibility to what Ashley was doing, and also some ticks that, you know, some idiosyncrasies that had been coming out through the rest of the inks with using white over the dark areas, and where I would put in cross hatching, and Ashley would never use cross hatching in the same way. All of that stuff, and it ended up being a very recognizably Ashley Wood page, but definitely not finished by him. But learning where he spotted his blacks and how and why, and it's just incredible. It was so amazing. So, but people, I don't think I've got a copy here right next to me. No, so they're all downstairs. Issue 8 as a jam issue, I thought was so interesting that I was inking all of these very different pencil styles. I printed a pencil version as well, where it's just the pencils, no lettering, no nothing. So if you're interested in seeing the original art before I went over it with inks, it's a really cool comparison between the final product and the pencil version. I think I've only got 5 copies left.
Set one aside for me.
I didn't think people would want to buy it, but so I only printed a. Have you not got one?
I don't think so. I've got one. What's the white cover?
That's
no, that was the preview. That was the
preview.
Yeah. I've got the final version. I've got the white cover, and I don't have the pencil one, I don't think. So set one aside for me.
All right, will do.
Yeah.
Easy.
So the only thing I can say about Greener Pastures number 8 is, how fast did I do my page? How fast?
You were one of the first in. Absolutely.
Yes. Not one of the last. One of the what? One of the
first. One of the earliest. Yes.
And I think on that high note, we should leave it for the week.
Okay. Sounds good to me, man.
Okay, I'm turning off this lady. I'm turning on this lady, turning off this lady.
See you guys.
See ya, everyone.